be teaching, I think that today we will be going with that throws and some of the how to write the generic means exceptions or user defined custom exceptions by the users that we are going to do. And today we will finish with the exception, and from the next class we will start with the threads. So let's go with the throw clause. Throw, do you remember we have gone with the exceptions and all? Now throw, in our exception, the throw means it is possible for a user to throw an exception from any point of time. That means you can throw an instance or throw an instance of an exception, that is throw throwable instance. Throwable instance you can throw from any point of your program. Suppose you want to throw a null pointer exception or some of the exceptions, then you can use this particular. Okay, let's throw this particular exception. Like let's check this something. Okay, these are the exceptions that we're talking about. Let's see. Suppose let's go and make, or suppose I'm doing it here, another method here, like static void demo proc. Okay, I'm writing try catch here. Suppose I want to do null pointer exception. Exception e this out port, suppose inside this method called demo proc, and again I'm see, or I'm throwing the exception from here. This null pointer p sub c caps, so new pointer demo this is, let's call this particular from here, let me call this demo proc method. Right, this null pointer here. Again, I'm using a null pointer exception. System. Something I'm writing here, record proc. See what happens here. What happens here? You check it here. So I can throw an exception from any point of your program, and it can be done like this: throw an instance of an exception or throw new or or throwable instance. See, I have been using this throw in both in two areas. You can use in one of the areas, but to tell you how this program is going to work, I have used the throw statement here by creating an object using new this null pointer and this demo. This is an object that I have created using new. So I'm throwing an instance of null pointer exception that has been created by new null pointer exception. And then I could have done this way also. I could have done null pointer exception. This is a class and this new demo. And I could have thrown this object to check. I could have done this because to create. So I'm directly using this particular. I don't want to write an extra line. So I'm directly using this throw in this similar fashion. And then what I'm doing is check. So what happens here? It goes to the void when it starts. It call this particular demo proc. Okay, this demo proc is being called here. Then it goes this compiler. It throws the null pointer exception. When it throws, it is getting caught in that catch block. Then it is going to print me that caught inside this exception. Then it is going to again throw. So when it is throwing it just wait a minute. Okay, so when it is throwing the exception again, so it is being caught now in the main class that is recaught inside this demo proc. So you check. I have thrown twice this, and again when I'm throwing here, it goes to the void main class and it is being caught inside this demo proc. So let's check. Sorry. See, this is the caught exception. Means I'm throwing it the demo, then it is showing me that record caught inside this. Then again it is throwing an exception here. It goes to the from where this method is invoked, and there it is catching caught inside demographic exception. Then it is printing me the finally block, and then the system dot testing this particular block. Suppose that day Monica asked me a question, why this finally block and what would happen if I had removed this and written something here. So while I was doing, it got into my head. Well, just today morning I was checking with this particular throw and throw new statement. So Monica, are you there?
Hanuman, I think she's having some network issue. You can go ahead.
Kelani, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
And all others, because it is showing me that connecting to audio. I think then
Yes.
Tejashwini, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay. So let's think. That day Monica asked me a question. What
Yes.
happens? Yeah, what happens when you remove this finally block? Why this is if it is a default program? She asked me this question. Okay. The thing is, it caught my head today that what happens if I remove it? Suppose I want to end a program here in the try catch block. Whenever you try to end a program, like something called if I'm returning this program, I am abruptly ending, means I'm ending this particular program here. Suppose return I'm giving it something return or return 0. Sorry. Suppose I'm giving a return here. So it is going to end this particular program. Or something I'm going to do it here. I'm not going to call this demo proc. I'm just returning it. So let's check. See, return means but whenever you are opening a connection, you need to close those particular connections. Suppose you have finished with this method, like some file writer or something you are writing in a file, you are finished with this method, you are just returning in the try block. Still, to close that stream, you need finally block. Even if you return or abruptly end the program, that means it is, even then it is going to the finally block. See, it is printing me the finally block here because I have used returning from here, but it is not printing me this system testing 2. So this was the question asked by Monica, and this is the answer, that even though you are abruptly ending your program in a certain point, it will it is going to execute your finally block. Hope that is clear, Monica.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir.
You got your answer.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
I got it. Yeah.
Okay. So this was my throw. Now I go to the throws clause. Suppose you do not want to give your particular a catch or something here. Suppose you do not want to give something catch or something here. You can, or you can tell the compiler, that okay, I want to throw this particular null pointer exception. Fine, but you can tell it that okay, this program will throw me an exception, that is a null pointer exception. By this way, whenever you are using this capable, it's throws clause, that means you are specifying that whenever you are using this throws clause, okay, this particular throws clause, that means you you are specifying the behavior of the method, or the method sorry, behavior of the type of exception that the method will throw. Suppose here I'm saying that okay, I know this class is going to throw me the null pointer exception. So what happens? It throws the null pointer exception and propagates the error. So let's check. Let's check this. Suppose I'm not using the try catch block. I'm not using the try catch block. What happens here? what happens here? So it throws the null pointer exception, and see, I'm not using the throws also. I'm not going to use this throw also. Let's check. See, it's it's the printing is something called, just check the difference. It goes to the final block testing 1 2 3, and now when I'm throwing this particular null pointer exception, let's check this. Okay, it's printing me again this testing 1 2 3. Just wait a minute, there is some issue with this. Okay, I got it. From here, whenever you are throwing a new pointer exceptions here, okay, uh, this was my issue because this method was never being called. Let's check this. See, record inside this demographic, then it is printing me testing 1 2 3. Now let's remove this. It will almost print you the same results. Record 1 2 3. So what is the difference between this? It has already given me that, okay, throw new null pointer exception. It is throwing me here. But what it does, the throws clause, what it particularly does here, that means I told you that you are giving this particular exceptions called, this is going to throw me, means you are giving this particular method, you are saying this particular method that what type of exception this type might throw. This is going to throw me the null pointer exception. This is going to throw me the null pointer exception. This gives me the behavior. It tells the compiler, okay, this throws clause, you are specifying the behavior of the type of the exception that method is going to throw. So by checking this, the compiler understands, okay, this particular method is going to throw me this particular type of exceptions. Now you can give comma here, you can give comma, and you can give the type of, means another type of exception, means that illegal, means illegal, suppose exception. uh, See, I'm giving that this method can throw me a null pointer exception or an illegal access type of exception. So in this method, you can give the, in your throws clause, it gives throws clause, you can write the exception particular list here. Suppose I'm removing the try catch block from here. Now I'm removing the try catch block from here. I'm just calling this. Now you check this. Check this. Okay. When I'm not using this try catch block particularly from where I am calling, Suppose that means from this particular demo proc, okay, this is going to throw me an exception that is called null pointer exception. Let's check this. See, there here where I'm going to throw this null pointer exception, I'm not catching it. I'm not going to catch this particular program, but I know this is going to throw me a null pointer exception. So it propagates this particular exception, this particular null pointer exception that I have used. It propagates to the void main first. From there, I haven't used any try and catch block, so it is not catching, or this particular exception is not being caught as I have not used it. So this exception again propagates to the Java compiler, and then the Java compiler throws me that exception in the main lang dot this pointer exception. This propagates, this throws close, propagates the error to here, and then it propagates this to my particular exception list. Suppose if I hadn't used here, okay, then I had used something called int I is equal to 0, then int b equal to 5. See, let's check this. See, even if I do not write here, even if I do not write any throws or something clause here, illegal or something, it just propagates. The exception is being propagated from where it is called. Suppose I'm writing another method here. This propagation of method, remember this is the propagation of the exception inside a method that I'm using. Let's check this. I'm using one more method called static int propagate errors. I'm calling this from here. And I'm calling this from here. So I'm telling the compiler here, okay, it can throw me as I'm the user null pointer or illegal exception. But when I'm using a throws clause, that means from here I'm calling it. So I had to write this throws, this particular illegal, wherever I'm invoking this method. So it is propagating. Say suppose I've used this method, but I haven't told the compiler that it is going to throw me this arithmetic exception. That is fine. That is fine because you are a user. You do not know what type of exceptions. But if you are sure of your method that it is going to throw me a null pointer exception or illegal exception, then you should write here throws null pointer exception. If you are using this particular called demo proc, means if you are calling this particular method from your propagate error in another method, that means if this method I know, I'm sure of that this might throw me null pointer exception and illegal exception, then you must also something tell the compiler as I am calling this method demo proc inside this method propagate errors. That means this will propagate the error to me as I'm not using any try catch block here. So again it is telling from here it propagates the error to the void main, and I'm throwing this particular throws and this particular exception, and then it propagates the error to the Java compiler. But in between, if I had written a try catch block, that means it has already been caught in these propagate errors. So propagation of the errors, are you clear or do you have any questions?
No, sir. Propagation of protection.
Okay, so one by one it calls, and adding the throws clause, it means that you are specifying the behavior of the
I could not hear you, sir.
Hey, Tanuman, are you there?
can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Kalani,
Yes, sir.
please pass me the presenter role.
Sure, Tanuman, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the propagation of the errors is done. Now we are going to do some what I will say, some custom exceptions. Custom exceptions is the exception. Suppose I'm going to create any custom type of exceptions, means creating my own exception subclass. For creating your own exception subclass, see, we told you that throwable is the superclass. From throwable, it has two subclasses, exception and error, and all the exceptions that I am teaching you now just extends this particular subclass called exception, which indirectly is the means which is indirectly means your exception, which is indirectly inheriting all the properties of throwable, because throwable is the superclass, then it's the exception, then this is basically the superclass of all other exceptions like null pointer arithmetic. So when you are creating your own exceptions, you need to extend this particular subclass called exception, which is of course a subclass of the throwable, this particular class. So your subclass doesn't need to actually implement anything, because let's see what does that mean. I'm going to do another package called custom exception. I'm writing a class here. Suppose class, I'm writing it my exception. I told you, if I'm writing, I need to extend that class exception. Okay. Then I'm writing the constructor here, my exception. Let me get int a something. You can give the parameter here, detail. Oh, sorry, I'm doing a private int detail. Let's call this detail again here. This dot detail equal to detail, and I'm writing another class called my exception demo, from where I'm going to call this particular class, and I'm going to write this suppose static. I'm writing a static method inside it. Suppose compute int a. This I'm going to give a throws clause. This method will throw my exception. See, I've written here. Okay, you need to write that this particular class needs to throw your this my exception. So what is this my exception class? This is already you have an defined and user defined function that you are going to do. Okay, this is going to means a custom exception throw. So I am throwing it from this particular method. It is just letting me, it is just you are specifying the behavior of the type of exception that the method might throw. So this is the exception class, my exception, that I'm telling that okay, this is going to throw me and my exception class. So system is out, I'm doing called compute. Then I'm going to do if a is greater than 10. Okay, I'm going to throw this, throw new my exception. I need to do, this is my unthrowable instance. This is my throwable instance, the instance of this my particular exception class. So I could have written something my exception obj equal to new my exception, and I'm passing this a value, or and then I'm writing a this out statement, normal exit. Now I'm going to write my main method, static void main string args. Then I'm going to write a try catch. See, the catch I'm going to give the class that I have created, my exception. This is the one that I have created, and then I'm going to sys out what. Okay, this I need to actually throws block. Okay, this I'm going to do. I've given this. Okay, what happens here? Suppose I'm calling this compute one, compute two, compute one, and compute, suppose not two. Okay, two, and suppose I give only one. So let's check this. Okay, whenever I'm going to throw this particular exception here, okay, this is my void when it starts. I'm calling this compute method here. It is my one. So if a is greater than 10, then only it's going to throw the custom exception that I have cleared. So it is not greater than one. So it will be a normal exit. See, this is called compute, and this is going to be a normal exit. But if I had given here something called 12, let's take this. If a is greater than 10, so what it is going to print me? See, what it is printing me, it is called compute, then it is greater than this, then it is throwing me this particular exception here, then it is getting caught, and getting caught is something, and it is written here. Okay, I should have this caught plus this particular call that it is catching my this particular exception called customer custom exception. That is my exception. This is my custom exception. So are you clear how to create an exception of your custom? Any questions? Okay, so let's go.
No, sir.
Okay, there is an exceptions. There are lots of exceptions that are already built-in exceptions. This is my custom exceptions. They are lots, and like arithmetic object exception that is divided by zero, some arithmetic error. Then you have called arrays out of bound index exception. That is if the array size you have given 3 and you are work means you want to navigate to the array size 4. So you are going beyond the size of an array, then you are going to get array index out of bound exception, and there are lots like this. So there is a difference in the language Java. There are two type of mainly exceptions, that is called checked and unchecked. What is the difference between checked and unchecked exceptions? Checked exceptions. This is the compiler. Sorry, first let's check with this unchecked exceptions. Compiler does not, if it does not check, uh, does not check to see if a method handles or throws these exceptions, then that is called your unchecked exceptions. So like unchecked exceptions are what I will say, the unchecked exceptions are like your arithmetic exception. This is because this is a runtime exception. Arithmetic exception is a runtime exception because you never know, because the compiler will never know when this type of arithmetic type of exceptions will cause this type of exceptions. Like the compiler will never know until and it get executes. Like if I've written something here, where I was writing that. Okay, like demo something here, the compiler doesn't know until it goes this line. Okay, d is equal to 5 minus 1. That is 5 divided by 0 is going to throw you an arithmetic exception. It does not go and check. Okay, this is a runtime exception. The compiler from beforehand, it is not going to means when I'm going to run this program. Okay, run this program. Then only after running, when this particular goes, the control or the flow goes till here, flows goes till here, then only the compiler understands, okay, this is going to be this is an exception. So while compiling means at once it is transforming the whole program to the bytecodes. That time it doesn't understand, though this is going to be my exception. So that is called a runtime exception, and that is an unchecked exceptions. Now checked exceptions are means the compiler checks to see if the method handles or throws these exceptions. Like I'm going to give an example. I'm going to give you an example is your a type of exceptions that you will find in the Java world is called class not found exception. This is your compile time exception. This is called compile time exception because class not found exception. What is class not found exception? Suppose you are including the package or something called a particular called a jar. From there you try to use a particular method that is inside another class. Okay, and you are going to use that particular class, and then it gives you an error called class not found exception, because during that might be inside that jar, that class is not accessible, or you have created a private, or you haven't created the class, but in your program, okay, you are just using that particular type of class, and then you might get an exception called class not found exceptions. Suppose if I had used a method or something, so I'm using an Eclipse, but when this particular Java was created, there was no developing tools like Eclipse. You had to write in your notepad, and then you need to compile, and then you need to run in your command line. So there, suppose if I'm using a method that has not been defined here, something my method, or suppose this method, and I'm going to call this Eclipse, already saying me this method is not being created, or this class is not been created. But while you do it in your notepad, while you do it in your command line, these particular validations are not being provided. So you create this particular my method or a class name. Suppose a class name, you're importing here a class name, then you do a dot something, this class name dot my method, and you are trying to call, and if that class is not accessible, that while you compile, first in command line you need to compile, then you need to run the program. So while it compiles, it gives you an error, class not found exception. So those are called checked exceptions. Is it clear between the checked and unchecked? Any questions? Okay. So we have finished with our exceptions. Okay. And please do a program on, suppose, let me check, means this is your assignment. Okay. You need to create your own custom exception, and this will be thrown when you pass a negative value to a method. This is your create your own custom exception, and this will be thrown when you pass a negative value to a method. So this is your assignment. Please do it, and I'm going to ask this in your next class whether you could do this or you have any problem. So I have finished with the exceptions like checked, unchecked, and everything. So now we are going to do, means from the next class we are going to do your threading, multi-threading programs.
Hey, Tanuman, sorry to disturb you. Can you please can you please conduct a test tomorrow to these guys?
Okay.
Okay.
And but how the test will be conducted?
You
Means
can
should
share me the
I
question
send
paper.
them?
You can share me the question
Okay.
paper. I'll send to these guys, and they'll return it. They'll do it, and they'll show you each and every one on Monday. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Otherwise, anyhow, these guys are having
Okay.
email ID of yours, right? These guys will share their assignments to you, and you can validate it. And
Yeah,
if
Kalyani,
any,
it will be fine if they send you the assignments in a zip folder or something. Then you can send me, and then I'm going to
yeah, anything
reevaluate.
would be fine. Anything would be fine. Every one of you can do the assignment tomorrow, and you can submit. And anyone can take the initiation and can create a zip folder of all the other assignments and share it with Tanuman. Tanuman can check it, and Tanuman guide any issues is there with anyone personally. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
And so
Oh,
that we can keep track that how people are practicing and all. Okay. Because that is also most
okay.
important
Sure.
for us other than taking classes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to give you the questions before your exceptions. Before your exceptions, I'm going to give you questions, and from the next weekends, I'm going to give you exceptions and threading and any other chapters that we are covering. So next will be your multi-threading programming, the next class. And so today we have finished with the class, and I'm going to share with Kalyani the question paper or the set of questions that to be done, and Kalyani will share the same with you, and please make it a zip folder, and then you pass me the answers. And if there are any problems with your programming and this, I'm definitely going to take the class on Monday, and I will there let you know where are the mistakes actually. Is it fine, Tejashwani, Anusha,
Yes, sir.
Sandeep?
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. So that is it for today. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, sir. Bye.
Tanuman, Monday would be the same timings, right?
No, it's Monday. I have an office, so it will be 8 a.m. to 9
Yeah,
p.m.
regular timings. Am I right?
Yeah, regular timing. Yeah.
Okay, Tanuman. Bye, all of you. Happy weekend, and please
Bye.
complete the
Happy
assignment
weekend.
whatever Tanuman is giving. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Okay.
Bye, all of you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, Tanuman. Thanks.
Yeah, bye.